from?
Okay, so now for Working Waters Trust, where I'm the projects manager. So we're a freshwater conservation trust that works throughout Canterbury, Otago and Southland on restoration, education, advocacy for our waterways, and particularly for threatened species of fish. I'd firstly like to touch on a point around EnviroSchools Canterbury, or the Toimata Foundation. They are a partner organisation who we work with on quite a few projects, and they have always been very, very supportive and very professional in their work, and I would say that they have a very high quality of facilitation with the schools. They have a lot of support, and I know that they have been advocating for more funding through the City Council for their work that they do, so increased funding, but also for a longer term funding agreement so that they can provide security to the facilitators and provide that service to the schools that I know there's a waiting list of quite a few schools. So yeah, there might be others who have submitted in this point as well. Next point was around the Waterways Ecology and Water Quality Improvement Program. So this program initially had a funding, had $1 million of funding per annum when it was initiated, and in the current LTP for the first year they're looking at a 67% reduction in that funding from its initial level when it was first brought in, or a 15% reduction compared to last year's funding. Working Waters Trust believes that this is a bit short-sighted to reduce the funding when one of the strategic priorities of the City Council is to improve waterways, and this is the Water Quality Improvement Fund. And I do believe that, I know there's a lot of funding going towards stormwater and wastewater initiatives, but sometimes they might have indirect benefits for waterways, but this is the fund for direct benefits to improving waterways. Next point, aligned with that fund, is the Community Water Partnership funding that was proposed by the Natural Heritage team within CCC. This is currently, it is listed in a service plan for potential in the future, but currently has no funding assigned, and $1 million per year was requested for that program. So Working Waters would like to show our support for funding for that program at the $1 million per year level, and that's because we've seen there's quite clear evidence from around the world, particularly Portland, Oregon, where you get communities involved in stopping contaminants at the source. It's a very cost-effective way to have stormwater improvements. And so we're spending a lot of money in this city on stormwater. So $1 million per year on actually working on stopping the contaminants at source actually makes a lot of sense. And it also plays into the role of, also the community outcome of stronger communities, because it's empowering communities to to take responsibility for this issue ourselves. And there are quite a few groups, Working Waters Trust and other trusts, that would like to play a role in helping to make that happen. That's probably all for any questions around Working Waters Trust.
Yes, Pauline, and then Aaron, Yanni.
You mentioned Portland, Oregon, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So can you tell us, did they set up a similar type program as this Community Water Partnership Trust is looking like?
Yes, so that they provided incentives for taking. So they have a slightly different problem that their stormwater and wastewater are combined. So they're really trying to take that peak off the stormwater. So it's a quantity issue as well as quality. Right. But they have worked on quality issues as well. Yeah. And yes, they have definitely taken the community, using the community groups to provide engagement around the issues.
So was there quite a sizable education component
yes, there
in
was.
that?
Yeah.
And there's evidence that worked?
Yes, I believe Clive Appleton from the CCC has presented to us on that evidence. So.
Okay, thank you.
Right, sorry, there was Aaron and then Yanni.
Yeah, so just two questions around the water. One is, I know a lot of people are quite concerned about carbon. I'm actually more concerned about plastic in the ocean and in our waterways, and you support the funding for cleaning up waterways and things. Have you got any points to make on that? I can't seem to pass a swale or a creek without seeing at least something plastic every metre or two, which is incredibly unfortunate.
So my point would also be to try and stop the pollutant at the source rather than trying to stop it when it's already in the ocean. And that is around also education, working on advocacy with supermarkets. It's already happening, the zero waste movement, to change how we package and, yeah.
So you're in favour of potentially even moving towards us not even using plastic anywhere in the future?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, seems to be the way it's going.
Yeah.
We'll take a while to get there, but
Yeah.
once there's no fish left. And then the other one was around stormwater at the source. So do you think the council should be, because it's not necessarily in your submission because we didn't really ask the question, but around, I think a rebate system to encourage people to put in rainwater tanks because of just our sheer volumes of stormwater. Have you got any comments on that as a system, or do you have a better system?
I would focus on pollutants first, such as zinc off galvanised roofs, industrial incentives for industry to paint their roofs, and focus on copper-free brake pads, which is already being advocated. Yep. I'm not an expert on the stormwater system here, but I believe it is more of a quality issue rather than the quantity issue. Yeah.
Yanni, and then
thank you.
Bill.
Thank you for your submission. Other submitters who you probably haven't heard or seen have commented on the fact that if we're doing the dredging in the river or the Wolston Cut, that we should take more out. They're kind of concerned at the low level of sediment that we're removing. We've also been advised that that there's contaminants in it that we're leaving in sight. So have you got any thoughts around, I don't know if you've considered the dredging and the flood mitigation, but any thoughts around improving water quality as we do that or while we do that?
So once again, I haven't looked into this in detailed manner, but so I think you need to do very safe disposal of those sediments. You're raising a point about the safe disposal of where those sediments are going?
Well basically, you're talking about the water quality, and you've mentioned the shortfall in the budget.
Mm-hmm.
Through our land drainage program, for example, we're dredging the Wolston Cut.
Mm-hmm.
Other submitters have asked if we can actually take more of the sediment out, but one of the issues is it's got asbestos in it, which we're actually leaving in for future generations.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wondered whether you think we should look at, while we're doing work along that river channel, which we obviously have more dredging to go along the Heathcote, whether we need to have
is that accurate?
more of a focus.
Sorry, sorry, I mean, you can't say something like that in a question to a submitter. I mean, I don't have any advice on that in front of me.
The land drainage people will know that. They've had presentations on it.
Yeah.
That's what
I would
advised
say
me.
that we need to stop asbestos and similar contaminants getting into the waterways. It's so much easier to work on prevention rather than trying to fix it afterwards.
My question really is about what should we be doing about the stuff that's already in our waterways? Is there any measures or mechanisms or budget that you think we should allocate to cleaning up what's already there?
So there are some forms of remediation around, so bioremediation and planting of wetlands, and then harvesting those species to dispose of as landfill. Once again, it's very expensive, and it shouldn't be seen as the primary option.
No, sometimes dredging though can be counterproductive. I mean, it's interesting, the cycle of events in a particular environment. Phil?
Thank you, Sophie. Just earlier today we had a submission too from Environment Canterbury, and I'm going to ask you a question really around that, the Community Water Partnership, which currently we haven't got funding in for. And Steve Lon's view was, and the answer to me was really that the education programs that were at best were those where people were actively involved. Mm-hmm. So I just wondered if you've got any comments for us about education programs like this one, I guess, which have got a good chance of success. And where I'm coming from is sometimes education programs are criticised because they don't have any positive outcomes.
Yeah, so education programs which have a next step where a person can take up an incentive or so we currently, so along with the side Enviro Schools Canterbury have a couple of programs where we follow the action learning cycle, it's called, where you work with schools to provide them information, but then you give them the space to take action. and give examples what those actions can be, but don't preordain what the action will be. And that's a similar sort of process I would suggest for these education programs. They wouldn't be just education programs, they'll be education plus action, but with the space. And knowing what knowing what the framework is for those actions, but not preordaining for the people, but giving them the chance to take ownership.
And you're really advocating that we should invest in this program?
That's the Urban Eel project, which we have funding from the CCC for, from the Innovation and Sustainability Fund.
Okay.
Yeah, it's following that framework.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks, Sophie.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so we'll move on to the
finally
final
for
one.
my personal
Thank you.
submission, just to make sure that people are clear these are my personal views rather than the Working Waters Trust or the Christchurch Enviro Hub Trust.